What is going on, DXB family? Welcome back to the channel. So Sui went down again for nearly 6 hours with a complete network freeze, over $1 billion worth of transactions locked, dApps completely unusable, and this isn't the first time. Now here's why nobody's talking about this. The second major outage since launch, and of course there was the famous $225 million CETUS hack last year, and there's a serious decentralization question here. And most people are ignoring it. I love Sui. I'm a long-term investor. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what happened, why it keeps happening, and most importantly, what it means for the future price of Sui, because that's where we are all going to come in. We are investors. And of course, that is the long-term objectivity of my videos. So smash a like, of course, if you hold Sui, if you're thinking about the ecosystem, and let's go straight into it. So let's break down what happened on the 14th. Which was yesterday. So basically the network is stalled. You can see here, major outage, of course, 5 hours, 52 minutes. No transactions, no checkpoints, nothing. Network was effectively frozen for 5 hours and 52 minutes. And the last valid check was about 2:22 p.m. UTC. Sui Foundation didn't actually publicly confirm the issue until an hour later, 3:24, I think it was. So the network wasn't fully restored until 8:44 p.m. During this time, you may have noticed that your wallets, in effect, were rendered unuseful or unusable, I should say. No deposits, and major exchanges suspended trading. Wallet providers were showing inconsistent balancing. We've seen this before with the CETUS hack. So the Sui Foundation said it was a consensus outage, meaning validators couldn't agree on the state of the blockchain, but there was a problem. They still haven't released the full details. And if you look at the X page, what they've done is they've said Sui network is fully operational. Transactions are now flowing normally. If you're still seeing issues, please refresh your app browser. Thank you for your patience. We will share the incident report in the coming days. So Sui has been criticized in the past for moving too slow, especially the foundation. But here's the problem. They still haven't released that detailed report, and people want to see this. So is there any precedence? Is there historical take of the Sui blockchain going dark? And there were major incidents back in 2024, of course. And I'll give you a list of these. So November 2022 was Sui's first major outage. Network was down only 2.5 hours. They blamed it on a bug in the transaction scheduling logic. Validators crashed. They rolled out a patch and moved on. Never went back. December 2025, degraded consensus performance. Not full outage, but still status page showed slower block time. Now, overall, I'm very impressed with their 99.72% uptime, right? So we got to rationalize the fear. Is it a fear or an opportunity? In my opinion, it's an opportunity. If you look at the last 90 days performance, what you have is this blip here, right? Operational, and consensus outage is not something they've had before. But in May 2025, CETUS protocol hack with a massive $223 million stolen fund. From the largest DEX, the attacker issued a fake token to manipulate price curves, drain liquidity. Sui USDC pool lost $11 million. Meme coins actually lost 80 to 90% of their value, and TVL dropped from 2 billion to about 1.45 billion. Okay. So all of that would say this is maybe a chain that goes dark, right? On top of that, 2025 alone saw exploit from Typus Finance, $3 million. Unaudited contract. Nemo protocol lost $2.4 million. So you've got a network, outages, you've got major hacks, you've got validators essentially acting like centralized authority when things go wrong. And here's the criticism, right? Critics say it's no different from bank freezing your account, but I disagree. I think we need to be able to control, right? We need to be able to have some kind of control over when these sort of things happen. Without it, I think the chains will be in massive trouble. Okay, so critics may say that. Now, defenders of Sui would argue Ethereum, Solana, and Bitcoin have all intervened during major exploits. They stop hackers from basically stopping hackers is not centralizing, right? Responsibility is security. Security is their responsibility, in my opinion. But here's my take. When you market yourself as a decentralized layer one, and you have competition from the likes of Say, Monad, Solana, you've got all of these different layer ones in similar space, Casper as well on the proof of work side. We're going to have to be objective here. We're going to compare. So Solana, for a second, Solana had its own history of outages. If you remember back in 2022, but they haven't had them now for nearly 18 months. They've implemented emergency validator coordination and critical patches. Sui needs to learn from that. And I think that is going to be the lesson for Sui, right? It's going to be the lesson ultimately to be able to act fast, explain what happened, fail fast and move on. So where does that leave price action? Well, you'd be glad to realize like 4% drop for me is not catastrophic. In fact, it is massively, massively strong. And I do expect Sui would shoot back up in no time now that the team have obviously fixed the issue. And it's very interesting. Despite the 6 hours of outage, Sui's price barely moved. It actually spiked 4%. When the outage was announced before settling back to about 180, it tells me one thing and one thing only. The market is either complacent, they don't know what's going on. Of course, market is solid. This was a short-term technical issue rather than a fundamental problem. And that is what it's likely to be. Be cautious. Of course, Sui went over $5. Reliability issues come with these big layer ones. And there is a massive comparison between Sui and Solana. This is for me the Solana killer. And here's a post from Binance. The incident is the second significant one since the launch in May 2024. November 2024, they had this issue, of course, and this is the second major one with the validators. Solana, of course, is another high-speed blockchain that experienced similar challenges, but has not faced anything in 18 months. But that doesn't guarantee this happening again, right? They've, of course, implemented those emergency protocols. In the wake of the network outage, Sui price token experienced a brief 4% increase before stabilizing between 180 and 184. So Sui is the Solana competitor long term. I think that's where whale flow is going to go. Be cautious. Sui is down from its all-time high. However, I do believe we are closer to the bottom than we are to the top. I've got a longer term view. I would love to accumulate this around 50 cents, 40 cents, 30 cents in the depths of the bear market, because I think for me, Sui is a 2030 project. You got to take 4 years outlook on something like this, and you will be a Sui millionaire, in my opinion. Currently, it has TVL ranked 12, according to DeFi Llama. After the CETUS hack, which was crazy, TVL dropped from by around 1 billion. So from 2.4 billion to about 1.4 billion. But here's the concern. Multiple DeFi protocols paused operations after the CETUS hack. Turbos, Scallop, Krea Finance, or the Krea DEX, they all implemented precautionary measures. Developer confidence matters, and if repeated incidents happen again, it does erode the confidence. Now, if you look at, of course, I love going to Reddit just to get the grapevine. And if you look at the, what's going on in Reddit, the people are talking about this as, as a blip, right? 6 hours. And the opinion is quite, is quite positive overall, because this is not something that has spread like wildfire across the market, right? And a lot of people don't actually know that it's even happened, which is unbelievable. But if you look at this, if you take the consensus of investors here, it doesn't raise enough to crash. Of course, it's Sui is super undervalued, and it's an opportunity right now. It is also, people are saying it just look at Solana, for example, and how wrong people are to fixate on it. Of course, I agree. It is just a proof that Sui is the next Solana, which is bullish. The cycle belongs to Sol. The waiting for Solana outages to start again, then ETH will run. ETH maxes have obviously come onto this as well. Bullish even more now, and Sol went down recently, not really, 18 months. And we didn't even talk about it. Yeah, no one's talking about this. I'm presenting this as an opportunity. That's because they own most of this Sui and didn't want to dump on themselves. That's a valid point. I had Sui on my list, but now I'm torn after the network outage. I think this is a huge problem for such promising new project. So that's all sides of the argument unreliable. I guess this is just a taste. It looks like a bigger issue is hidden. Suiciders will rogue once they find out it still has 71% more to dump. So look, this is a fair and balanced view. But here's what we'd like to see, of course. What I'm watching for personally is an incident report. Now, they did say they're going to release one. And so far, we are waiting for that, right? We are not seeing anything coming from the Sui Foundation, but they did say that they will release this in the next few days. So let's give them some time and let's wait for them to issue an incident report, because obviously, if you look at this, it is the only time now that this is happening, and the second time in the last 24 months, I would say. I'm looking for incident report, full review. We need to concentrate on technical explanations, of course, to prevent this happening again. Validator decentralization. How will they distribute validators in the future? The ability to freeze funds suggests high concentration. And of course, we know that doesn't meet the Clarity Act, for example. Security improvements. So we launched the 10 million security fund after the CETUS hack, but is that enough? That's a question. Are protocols actually implementing better audits and competition? Of course, we have Solana, we have Aptos, we have Monad, we have, of course, Proof of Work, Casper, we have Say, we have many other layer ones, and some of them have reliability issues. But if, Solana had the same issues and did not, of course, they fixed, they acted fast, nothing but uptime in the last 18 months. That puts a question into the Solana killer narrative. Okay, so they've got to come up with something there. If they can do this, of course, if they can fix these problems, and these problems are one, fix the underlying consensus issues. Number two, provide transparency on what's causing these outages. Number three, address the centralized concerns around validated power. Number four, improve security of the ecosystem so we don't see another CETUS after all. If they can do that, the path forward is straight, in my opinion, and it's to the upside. If they can't, capital and developers will go elsewhere. We've seen that before. As always, do your own research, manage your risk, never invest more than you can afford to lose. If you find this valuable, smash a like, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next one, but I'm incredibly bullish despite the setback. Take care, guys.